This is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, code provided by Deep Silver. We're here on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Be sure to like the video, subscribing is great as well. So this is a game I've been really grinding to kind of get done. It's been quite an experience, needless to say, but I've finally finished the game and can go out and enjoy the open world of what is really the most impressive current-gen visual experience that we have available on the consoles. Previously, Hellblade was truly remarkable in terms of fidelity and quality and design, but there is something amazing about having a massive open world at this level of fidelity and quality that's also targeting a higher frame rate and allowing us to enjoy just an incredibly detailed, luscious environment. It's kind of amazing. Really the best looking game, I would say, of the current gen in terms of fidelity and scope and level of detail mixed in with fluidity and resolution quality. It's truly quite remarkable. So this game is something that I would probably consider one of the greatest games ever created, an absolutely magnificent masterpiece. That being said, there are a lot of problems that I do have with this game that personally kind of hold back the experience a bit, which is a shame because I really do think this game is remarkable. It's got one of the best stories I've seen in a gaming experience, and it's just absolutely remarkable. Like, you really do feel like you are in a 15th century Bohemian environment and just enjoying the scope of what that has to offer. So I'll be going over all of the positives, all of the negatives. It's a game of extreme highs and a game of extreme lows. It is emotionally traumatizing, it is full of vibrancy and excitement. And I do really believe that if they were to take certain things a little bit further, this could be literally one of the best games ever made. So this game is not something that I would recommend for everyone. I might not even be necessarily able to recommend this game in general because I do not believe the average player is going to be able to play and complete this game. Personally, I wish I would have been able to just adventure. I was streaming and trying to work through the game, so I was spending a lot of time doing the story. So the narrative itself is probably well over 40 hours just for the story. Just the narrative. Not messing around, not really doing side quests, not really doing side adventures. It's really genuinely that long. It follows Henry here from the original game, who has returned and is basically kind of dealing with everything that was left over from the first entry. Obviously, Kingdom Come Deliverance, the original. So he's back, he's with Sir Hans Capon, and the two of them are kind of on a envoy mission where they are delivering a letter. That's the simple task. They just need to deliver a letter to gain leverage and help assist the kingdom because, well, there's been a big war, the invading forces from Hungary are causing problems, and they are basically just trying to fix the situation by uniting some groups, and everything goes wrong, and yeah, that's kind of the experience here, is you are basically on this quest where it's a simple concept, and nothing really works out for your guy. There's a lot of tedious steps along the way, and it's actually kind of funny. Again, from a storytelling perspective, this game is remarkable. It's mature, it's aggressive, it's dark, it's brooding, it's filled with humor and laughter and weird moments and ridiculousness. It also does have some pacing issues from a narrative perspective. Like, there is a lot of downtime, there's a lot of time where you are, like, moving sacks. I think there's at least three times in the game where you basically, like, start over from scratch and have to, like, re-grab stuff, and it's just kind of, like, annoying from that perspective. It's just, like, it could be really genuinely draining. And then the game it's good to have like a recap, but there's like a recap, and then the game kind of beats it over your head, the events of the first game, like over and over again, and a little bit of too much recapping this one as well. I definitely felt that they were recapping a little bit too much in this one, just because it was constantly like retreading, you know, like nightmares and stuff of the first game, and it's like, I guess it's from a perspective of they're maybe anticipating that you'll like go out and kind of like do side stuff and then come back and do the main mission. But yeah, they do. If you're worried about not having played the first game, you can just play this one. You won't miss anything. We'll talk about combat later. Drives me crazy. So that's kind of the setup here is, you know, you're just retraining the first game. The prologue is incredibly long. I kind of liked it. It was a little easier going. And then you get to a point where you're just sort of like beaten down. And that's like a lot of the game is just sort of like being beaten down. Like, it really does make you feel like you are sort of worthless. I mean, you're the son of a blacksmith, and there's more to it than that, obviously, as well as far as lineage goes. And some surprises with lineage, too, along the way in this one. But, yeah, some genuinely kind of like annoying bits and storytelling, and we'll talk about that, because I'm sure there's, you know, kind of those wanting the technical details, since we are here on the PlayStation 5 Pro. So let's dive into those briefly. So the game is a dynamic 1440p internal that is then using Pisser to go to 4K at 60 FPS. And actually beyond. So if you have VRR, which is variable refresh rate like myself, you actually have the capability in this game to go beyond the scope of 60 FPS. So you actually at times get something that's like 70-ish FPS. And theoretically, if you're in a situation, like the whole game is basically open world. You're never really specifically stuck in a place that is not a large open world. That's why the loading sometimes in this game can be a little brutal for the current gen. And that's mostly because, you know, it's got to load this whole world, and at any point you're kind of moving through things. So you're not really doing, like, segmented stuff. Sometimes you're going through buildings and quests and that, but, you know, it is a large open world. It's actually 2 massive open worlds, and that makes sense from a narrative perspective. So it's actually, like, to me, really quite technically impressive. Like, playing through this game, you feel like you're in a forest. The audio, the music, it's all very majestic and beautiful. Like, you are exploring vast forests, there's a few towns. It's a little bit more static, to a degree, when you've actually worked through it, if that makes sense. Like, afterwards, there's not as much kind of stuff. What are you doing there?
Yes?
How about stretching those limbs and getting some light exercise? Shall we spar?
No, not right now. Thanks for the offer, though. But yeah, no, it's kind of neat because you've got this massive open world, and for the most part, it all runs well. I think I had 1 crash the whole time, which to me is really, really impressive. And yeah, I think it was like a single crash, which is obviously I probably shouldn't have even mentioned it, but I just wanted to say how like technically well this is. There are some segments where there might be some performance drops, but for the most part, this is genuinely the most impressive current gen game we have, because it is, you know, 4K, it's using Pisser well, and it's 60 FPS, and it's a massive open world. I mean, like, the level of detail and distance and fidelity here, incredible. The character models look amazing. The details of, like, the outfits and the costumes and the swords and the weapons, incredibly just amazing. Now, I have actually noticed, hilariously, not while streaming, but sitting here coming to do my video, there is a little bit of, like, a fuzz type look when you look out into some of the tree lines, but I think 99% of people will not notice that. Also, incredible bodies of water, great levels of detail within, like, the rain touching things. Like, this is really, really quite impressive. This is sort of the level of detail and fidelity that I was dreaming of for the current gen, and we're only really hitting it here with the PS5 Pro, which is really, really quite impressive. Like, this game is so amazing. It's just absolutely breathtaking. From like a technical and gameplay perspective. How are you're following? That's not following the path, horse. That's not following the path at all. So, like, I really do want to just nail in how incredibly impressive. Could you please just keep your pace going? Incredibly impressive this game is. And they really try to genuinely create a level of detail of capturing a 15th century Bohemian environment. From, like, the jobs people work to the things different NPCs do to their livelihoods. It's all really, really genuinely quite impressive. Like, I really do applaud them for creating a level of realism within this game that is remarkable. At the same time, I joke and I prod and make fun of that realism because this game has a really weird kind of issue in terms of like combat and stealth mechanics, and I do genuinely have a lot of issues with this game, even if I am being positive here. It was emotionally traumatic to actually get through, and that's where I was saying I do wish they would get a little bit more with the time. Some people will get mad. I believe this game needs to have difficulty options and adjustments and settings. Your regular gamer, as I was saying, it's hard to recommend this because I do not believe your regular gamer would be able to finish this game. A, from a time commitment, B, from a perspective of it's so difficult. Like, I was barely able to finish through this. There's some stuff that's just like random that comes out of nowhere. And then the level of tediousness, like there's whole parts where you're just sitting there moving bags, and then the game has a not great checkpoint system to it. I just want to briefly say, so the game, when I was saying two massive worlds, this is like the second world, and then there's the first world. So, like, this world here, I'm too overloaded. Oh, come on. So, like, this world is, like, the second world in the game. Then there is, like, a first world area, which is also massive in its own regard, and then you come out here and you're basically, you know, going through this second environment. It's, quite remarkable. Why am I so overloaded? Is it the ordinary arrows? I'm trying to think of, like, what's kind of loaded me down. Marksman bolts. I don't really do the bolt stuff. It'd be better to sell them. Still not enough, eh? Still not enough? Oh, what did I just drop? Was that important? I hope not. There we go. Now I can fast travel. I hope that wasn't important. I think I still got my balls and I got my sword, right? Sword, dagger. Yeah, we're good. Sorry, it's not equipped because I died, right? So I'd go in to do a battle and I wouldn't have anything. Inventory and management in this game could be a complete pain. I'm gonna get sidetracked a lot. There genuinely is a lot to this game. Like, it is remarkably detailed. But yeah, so you've got this massive open world with all these little towns and cities. I do wish there was a bit more going on. How am I too overloaded with the cities in regards to extra stuff? Like, you're sort of oh, I'm not even wearing my proper like actual combat outfits, am I? Yeah, so there we go. That allows it. Yeah, because when you finish the game, there's lots of side quests, but you're sort of, I don't know how to describe it. It's a little like you can't go in as many things as you kind of want to, and it feels like they're more like placeholder type backdrop stuff sometimes. It's weird because like the game is kind of like an interactive movie at times with bouts of combat. And the real magic, I think, for most people is not actually going and doing the story, but going off and adventuring and taking in the world. I actually, coming back to difficulty and stuff like that, I hope, A, at some point down the road, they have an option where if you want to replay this, you can skip the prologue, because it kind of goes on forever. And B, I really do hope they have a mode where it's sort of like questless, not like no main quests, but like just side quests and stuff. Like, it'd be really neat. And then thirdly, I'd love to see an education mode in this game, kind of like Assassin's Creed does. I think that would be a really great teaching tool for schools to provide sort of this incredibly detailed world, and you can just kind of visit it like a non-combat sort of mode. I think that would be a really cool thing to provide just for, you know, educational purposes. I don't know if the team really has the bandwidth for that, but it's just an idea I kind of had from that perspective. But yeah, I do think difficulty, at least the checkpoint system, needs to be redone in this game. At times, I would lose 45 minutes. Sometimes you would get to a point where you don't have enough saves, because your saves are like overriding, and you'll just get stuck. And you won't be able to do anything, and you'll just be pinned, and there's no way of like getting past what you're doing or escaping what you're doing, and it can create really high levels of frustration. And I guess, like, to a degree, you can save quit, But like it's just fundamentally ill-designed. Like there's snaps and stuff like that, but you're constantly also having issues where you're not having access to money. Like the game is always, to get through areas and stuff like that, you're always needing to spend money. And sometimes you're not even like really told of these situations and that. And yeah, it's quite something. This is the big city in the world. I quite like visiting this place because it's like, you know, there's lots going on and everything like that. But this is where I'm saying there's like levels of tediousness. It drives me crazy. Like there's points where you're moving sacks. The blacksmithing is painfully slow and unenjoyable. And that's the problem, is I really wish there was kind of an option where it's more fun, not grueling. Because the combat in this game, I find just incredibly obnoxious. As you're sitting there doing a fisticuff fight, and it'll feel like it lasts minutes. Which, if you're doing fisticuffs, that's a long time. If you're doing sword fighting, you know, again, a game that's like really pushing the elements of like, this is supposed to be realistic. And I'm sitting there with a sword, stabbing a guy, like slashing a guy downwards 4 times in the head, and he's not wearing a helmet. It's just like, you know what I mean? Like that's incredibly unrealistic. Even poking a guy through chainmail, doing poke attacks into his stomach 6 times, and he just keeps coming at you. And you get to these points in combat where basically the enemy you're fighting has like unlimited stamina, and you're sitting there being like, well, you know, I don't have unlimited stamina. Like they'll get into these like weird sort of staggering hits where it goes and they'll hit you like 8 times in a row and there's nothing you can do. And then sometimes you take no damage. I actually found the AI kind of breaks if you just stand there. If you just stand there and you don't move, the AI kind of doesn't really know what to do. It's really, really quite peculiar. And it's just kind of like straight up bizarre. It kind of annoying too, because you're trying to like be like, okay, I've lost, I want to reload the save. And then like you can't, because basically you're sort of just waiting for this enemy to kill you. There's a point too where I was like, as soon as I would move, these archers from the wall would like shoot me, but if I just stood there right in the open, the archers wouldn't do anything against me at all. And I thought that was kind of like hilarious, and that's just kind of like little buggy things here and there. Like there was no prevention of progress from bugs outside of like mechanics and stuff being really annoying in this game. I do want to get that across as well, because some people would be like, oh, you know, you're gonna be, you know, kind of stuck doing this, and it's like, no, everything was sort of gameplay mechanics where I was getting like, I had an issue where randomly you needed a fast horse to do one segment of the game that took 2 hours. You know, there was a segment where basically, I'm trying to think of some of the stuff, like stealth stuff. Stealth is so bad in this game. I can't even get over how bad the stealth is. Like, you are attempting to do an assassination. You're crouching, you have your dagger, you go in, you go for the stab, but, like, you know, they can block you, and it's like, well, what is that? What is the point of having a stealth mechanic if they can block me? And it's like, okay, fine. So stealth mechanic, I have to stab, and then I have to prevent their block, and then I can win, right? No. Sometimes enemies will have a red shield thing, meaning that even if you pull off the assassination and the assassination block, you still lose. And then everyone gets alerted, and you have to, like, redo the checkpoint over and over again. And that in itself just, like, it drives you crazy having to do that sort of thing over and over and over again. I really need some food, actually. I'm gonna go talk to someone here about getting some snacks, because Henry's getting hungry. That's another mechanic of this game, is your character needs sleep, you need to be fed, you need to be rested. Health, it's like nigh impossible to heal yourself. You can get skill points that help a bit more with health, you can get potions, but even then, it's kind of like really limited. There's just like no one at the bar at this hour? Come on, it's supposed to be like an inn. Okay. We'll just skip a couple hours. And, you know, it's kind of annoying, and that's the thing, too, is like a very slow kind of perk progression, but these perks can give you quirky abilities and helpful things here or there, and that can be a big game changer, is actually improving your perks enough, and you gotta practice in this game, too. Which again, kind of, like, brings me to, like, combat in this game, I think is genuinely terrible. I really, really genuinely think the combat in this is not great. Yeah.
Pleasure doing business.
I wish it was better, but it's just frustrating. I was kind of getting to that too, where you're stabbing, attacking, hitting enemies, and they're just kind of like taking it, and it drives you crazy because you're trying to like, you know, survive. You're trying to be able to do things, and it's just like it really kind of just it works against you. Do I need that? I already have that book, I think. And you'll just kind of be like driven mad by it, and then the lock picking's a bit of a pain. It's not too bad, but it is a bit of a pain doing the lock picking thing, and yeah, I don't know. Again, like I like this game quite a bit, and then there's so many other things that just make it tedious. Like a lot of the early game is working to get stuff and then losing it, and then working to get stuff, like moving sacks. Slow, very, very slow smithing. Very, very tedious goals and tasks. Like, very, very slow missions. Like, a lot of the game, it's just like fetch quests. Like, a lot of the missions will just be fetch quests. There is really well done romance. I love some of the characters in this, too. As I keep jumping from bit to bit. There's so much to talk about in this game because it's so massive. Like, genuinely, I have so many thoughts because I spent so much time playing this game. It's very, like, raw in the mind, too, of this sort of thing. Like, for instance, Catherine, incredible character. I think Rosa? Was it Rosie? Rosa? She's fantastic, too. So many... Clara is so many interesting characters, and there's so many moments, too. You have such a wide roster of characters. It's almost hard to, like, remember everything. That's the thing as well, is just like, again, the amount of like fetch quests that you do in this game can be a little overwhelming and a little exhausting. Like, I really did feel like a lot of the time I was just sort of going from like one area to another area, and I was like, I think I would have found this more rewarding personally had I been able to have the afforded luxury of just exploring and just like taking in this world, because it's a very authentic creation of this place. Like, and the other thing too is when you do crimes in that, you actually have issues. Like, they'll somehow catch, like, the guards are overly aware of what you're stealing or where you are. Like, the thieving mechanics in this are terrible too. And the stealth mechanics, like, I'll sneak up behind a guy and he'll do a 360 turn just to know where I am, and like the AI awareness is a little weird and a little disturbing and a little obnoxious, and that was another part that just drove me absolutely bonkers. Because it's like, for every like exciting and great part of this game, there is a genuinely annoying and like mind-twisting moment where you're just sitting there being like, this is so insanely frustrating, why is it like this? It's just bizarre, and I think just literally doing these minor adjustments could turn this game into a genuine masterpiece. I think for some, like I was saying at the beginning there, if you're still coming along with me on this discussion, I think some will find this to be just insane, but you're gonna be a very specific type of player. Because it's like, it wants to be realistic, but then it doesn't follow by rules of realism, especially for combat. Like, enemies. It's weird, because like when you start, it's not bad at all. Like, it's easy going, but as you keep playing, the AI just becomes so incredibly ruthless and dangerous that nothing you can do is good enough. Like, I had a situation where I was fighting 16 enemies, and every enemy was like basically like a god tier soldier that was just smacking me around like I was worthless. And that in itself is a problem, because it just doesn't feel realistic, it just doesn't feel right, and it feels like this game doesn't want you to get ahead. Like, when I'm playing a role-playing game, I want to feel immersed, and I want to feel like what I'm doing, like, matters, and that as I am exploring, as I am doing things, my character is becoming more strong, and by the end of the game, I am a tough, powerful character. To me, that's kind of the role-playing experience that I sort of like, whereas this game, right to the end, is just punching down on you. And it doesn't give you, really, to me, it didn't feel like the opportunities when working through the story to really get ahead. And you gotta do your training, and you gotta meet different guys, and I tried that, and I'd read the books, and that's where I think there's this level of tediousness to every inch of this game. Extreme highs, extreme lows. As soon as you get somewhere where you're like, oh, this is amazing, it just immediately feels like it's reeled right back in. And it just gets a little disappointing, because I want to like it more than I do. And I'm coming from a moment of clarity where I'm like, oh, it's over. I felt such relief when I finished this game, because I was like begging for it to end, because it was just so tedious and tiring, but you know, upon finishing it, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of great stuff there. I love the story, I love the characters. There's something perfect in here. I just wish they would ease up a bit on difficulty, ease up on some gameplay mechanics, and focus a bit more on the fun, because I do believe video games should be enjoyable and they should be fun to play.